Hey kids, this is Sharvari here, and today I'll be discussing a small part of chapter number 9 from class 6 biology. The name of this chapter is The Living Organisms and Their Surroundings. So we often wonder what qualifies as a living organism, right? So there are certain characteristics that need to be followed by this organism for it to be qualified as a living thing. So what are these characteristics? Let's take a look at those. Firstly, they need to be made up of cells. Secondly, they need to have and show levels of organization. So what does this mean? It could be unicellular, multicellular. In multicellular, it could be cellular level, organ level, tissue level, organ system level. Okay, this is level of organization. Next is it should be able to obtain the energy and use it to carry out its functions. The next one is it should be able to reproduce and multiply and increase the number of its own species. And the last one is it should be able to respond to its environment. What does that mean, you ask? That means that it should be able to react to the stimulus given by the environment. So this stimulus could be heat, it could be temperature, it could be wind, water, air, touch. All these are stimuli, and it needs to show an appropriate reaction or a response to it. So these are what qualify as characteristics for the living organisms. So all these living organisms live in a particular area. For example, camels live in deserts, yaks live on mountains, crabs and fish, they live in the sea. So these organisms, each organism has an individual and a very specific habitat. What is a habitat now? A habitat is a place where the organism resides. It provides it with shelter, food, appropriate living conditions and weather conditions where it can flourish and in turn reproduce. Okay, so there are two types of habitat. One is aquatic and one is terrestrial. We will look at two organisms in this video. One would be camel, which is an example of a terrestrial habitat, which is a desert. And the next one would be a fish. For an organism to flourish in its habitat, it has to have some modification and adaptations for that particular habitat. For example, for a camel to be able to survive in a desert, it has many adaptations, so let's take a look at those. Firstly, they have long eyelashes, so the sand and the windstorms and the sandstorms do not harm their eyesight, and the eyelashes can push away the sand. Similarly, they have stretchy nostrils which help them to breathe and eliminate and excrete the sand particles that come with the air that they breathe. Next is long legs, so they are high above the ground and the heat of the sand does not bother them. The next one is a leathery tongue and a leathery mouth. When they eat cacti, they have to feed on spiky plants, right? So it shouldn't hurt their mouth, which is why they have a leathery and a very tough mouth. After that, the hump, where they store the food in the form of fat. So when they are traveling for a very long time, they don't have to worry about feeding continuously. They already have the food stored in their bodies. Next one would be padded feet to protect the feet from the hot soil and the hot sand, and it also helps them to not sink and seep into the sand. And the last one is hair. They have hair throughout that body so that they can protect themselves from the sand and the heat of the very hot and a scorchy desert. Now let's take a look at the adaptations of a fish. Similarly, fish have a streamlined body. They have gills, they have fins and tails, they have three eyelids, and they have a totally different mechanism for breathing and eating food, right? So we will take a look at the other adaptations of other different animals as well as a look at all the important parts of this chapter in our classes. So I hope you join me there. Bye!